Whoever feels the most strongly, I think, is how we try to do it instead of making a compromise. You don't make great art by a compromise. You don't want it to be like, oh, you like it a little bit and I like it a little bit, but none of us love it. That's not a great place to be. You want to be where I fucking love this. This is like my favorite song on the album, and those drums in this moment and that whatever that is my favorite shit. Then that person will accept that, hopefully, instead of us trying to meet in the middle. That's not a good place to be.
What's going on? Welcome to the New Music Business. I'm your host, Ari Herstand, author of How to Make It in the New Music Business, the book. Third edition is out now everywhere, hardcover, ebook, audiobook, however you find books, you can find the book. Today, my guest is Tor Hermansen. He is one half of the production songwriter duo team Stargate. Stargate has written and produced major hit songs for Beyonce and Rihanna, Coldplay, just to name a very few. He's got billions and billions of streams. He has written and produced 10 Billboard Hot 100 number one singles in the US and 11 in the UK. He's won 2 Grammys. He's twice ASCAP Songwriter of the Year award recipient. He's written songs like Irreplaceable by Beyonce and Shakira's Beautiful Liar. He's done a lot with Rihanna. He's been working with Rihanna from the very beginning. He wrote and produced Rude Boy, Don't Stop the Music, Only Girl in the World, What's My Name, S&M, Diamonds. He did Selena Gomez's Come and Get It and Same Old Love, Fifth Harmony's Worth It, Katy Perry's Firework, the full album of Coldplay's Head Full of Dreams. And we talk a bit about him working on Julia Michaels' hit Issues. Just to name a few, he has written thousands of songs, and he talks about that. Around 500 of them have been actually released, and we talk all about that. We talk about the process of songwriting and producing, working with artists, working with top liners. He gives really great advice on how to write and work in the room with other songwriters, with producers, the process of demoing, writing, of rewriting, of stripping it down, building it up, all of that stuff. If you're curious about how songwriting and production works at this level, at the hit level, this is the episode for you. And then we also talk about, towards the end, the business of songwriting and producing. And Tor, along with his partner, Mikael Eriksson from Stargate, created the Los Angeles Academy for Artists and Music Producers, also known as LAMP. And this is an intensive program lasting 9 months in LA for aspiring artists and songwriters and producers. And he talks about this program. And so we spend a bit at the end, and he goes into what this school is all about and why he created it and how to be part of it. If you want to learn more about LAMP, you can go to LAAMPmusic.com. You can find Stargate on the socials or in the credits of most hit records of the last 20 years. You can find all of us that make the show happen at Ari's Take on the socials. Find me at Ari Herstand on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. Love to hear from you. Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you wouldn't mind just pausing this episode right now, just pause it real quick. Leave us that review, 5-star review. You can leave us a comment on Spotify or YouTube. I love reading those comments. Yes, you can leave comments on Spotify now if that's how you're listening to it. Leave us that review. But right now, if you wouldn't mind visiting aristake.com, get on the email list. That's where you're going to find the most relevant, up-to-date information about the new music business. That's how we can stay in touch with you. You can stay in touch with us. aristake.com. Get on that email list. All right, let's kick into the show. Tor Hermansen, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you.
Hey. So where are you right now? Are you in LA?
Yeah, I'm in LA. Or actually, I'm sitting at LAMP, which is our music, artist development program here in Santa Monica.
Nice.
Behind me, you can see the stage, I think, and you can see some curated music books. So this is where we have a program for like artists and producers and songwriters.
Amazing. I want to get into Lamp, all things Lamp, in just a little bit, because I think it's pretty incredible and fascinating what you're doing with that. And of course, I'm a big proponent of education. So anyone in our industry that is helping develop the next generation, I very much applaud, and I love what you're doing there with that. But before we get into that, I want to talk kind of about your process and everything that you have done. Over the last 20 years, I mean, you're one of the biggest hit makers in the world, and you've been there from kind of this massive evolution in our industry from radio and CDs to streaming and TikTok. And I'm curious, as someone who's kind of been through all of that, how has your process evolved through the years as a producer, as a songwriter, and just kind of speak to that evolution and just kind of speak to your process, how it was then, how it is now, and maybe how things have shifted a little bit?
I mean, one of the fun things about being in music, especially in a creative industry, is that you have to stay open-minded, and things keep changing all the time. Technology really informs how we work. So I've changed my process numerous times over the years. Really, I started as writing everything, mixing everything, doing everything in house with my writing partner Mikkel and Hallgeir back in Norway when we were three in Stargate. And we've had to change the process. When we came to America, we changed our process once because it was more specialized. We started bringing in top liners. We started sending our songs out to mix. We started doing a lot of things differently. And technology has really made producer collaborations and has really changed the way we work now. It's much more efficient now. It's much quicker and more spontaneous, I think. So if you talk about the creative process. Now, you have to separate the two. The creative process is one thing and the distribution process is another. Like, how do people discover music and listen to music? And that's when you get into the social media and the streaming and all that stuff. But the creative process is what I'm mostly, what I care about the most, because that's the part of it that I can control. And it's changed, but it's been really exciting. I think it's a very exciting time for music right now. It's much more accessible than it's ever been. There's so much more talent. There's more people producing and making music. There's more artists. There are more independent artists. There are no real barriers when it comes to putting your music out anymore. So it's a great time to be in music.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that it's a great time to be in music, because the industry has shifted, and I'm curious when you say like your creative process has shifted so much, and you mentioned top liners. I know early on, when you first got here and you were working with top liners, and typically you might create the song, you and Mikkel, and then have a top liner and then send the song off to, or your publisher might send it off to various artists, and an artist would cut it. Is that something, when you kind of talk about the creative process, do you work more with artists, or was that a bigger shift as you kind of went through the years, is instead of kind of working behind the scenes with Mikkel and maybe various top liners and then getting those songs pitched to hopefully get cut, did it turn into a point where the artist would be in the room with you from the beginning? And talk to me about like the difference between a top liner who's just kind of writing a song with you versus an artist in the room with you from the beginning.
I mean, listen, we've done everything that you mentioned right there, and everything in between.
Yeah.
So depending on the artist, some artists are incredible performers, but they don't really write their songs, and they want other people to write the songs. I can list, that would be a Rihanna model, partly a Beyonce. We could Selena Gomez, where you have these strong, really powerful artists, but they don't necessarily want to write everything. They want to bring in a team of people. So we've done a lot of that, and I guess you could call that pitch. It's not like you're cold calling someone with a song, but it's definitely, it's created without necessarily the artist being there the whole time. But then I've also done the whole album with Coldplay. Chris Martin is obviously, one of the greatest songwriters of our time. So at that point, we have a completely different role. We're guiding the songwriting maybe, and we're guiding the production, but we're not necessarily sitting there coming up with the words and the melodies. We work with Sam Smith. The first song we ever did together was, written in really before lunch on our first day. We did a song called Too Good at Goodbyes, and that was just us coming in with some piano chords and Sam doing the top line melody right there and then. So we've done a lot of different things, and I know some people say the pitch game is dead and nobody is taking songs anymore. I think if the song is good enough and you get it the right way, so it's not on a list of 150 songs, there's still a place for writing songs to pitch. But of course, the more success, I guess, or the more proven you become, the easier it is to get some form of engagement with the artist, which is obviously the best way to create anything, is to have the artist there in some capacity as you create it.
So let's talk about, you said the pitch game is dead, or at least that's the word on the street, where you believe that there's still a place for that. Talk to me about that process, just from your standpoint. What does it even mean to pitch a song, and what is that process like?
I mean, sometimes you have an artist in the studio and it's great, and everyone, and it feels like we're making a record. But a lot of times, doesn't matter what level you're on, there's going to be hundreds of days in the year where you're not in with an artist and you still want to be productive. And I think that's the time when you can start thinking about someone. So that artist, whoever that artist is, that gets you inspired, that you can treat that artist as your muse. And that's, pick someone that you're impressed by or that you really want to work with, and then you write a song. But once you've done the song and you may send it to that artist may not hear it for themselves, and that song then becomes a pitch song that you can send out to other people. That's really effective, and it's still a great way to get some form of traction and interaction with an artist manager, or a label. Maybe they'll hear it and say, well, you know what, I'm not hearing it for that artist, but we have another artist, a new artist this would be perfect on. And now you're engaging with an artist. So I still think there's real value to that, and not just sit around and wait for a superstar to walk through your door, because it doesn't matter who you are. Those moments are rare. So we want to make more songs, and the way to do that, and then think of the song as, okay, well, let's send it to someone else. And
but so you're thinking of an artist, it's almost as your muse when you're in the studio, potentially saying, okay, this could be for Rihanna, this could be for Selena, this could be, and you're thinking with, like, through the lens of maybe what they typically like to sing about, maybe what their essence is, or maybe if you know current events happening in their lives or something like that, you might use that as inspiration to put a song together, thinking it might be good for them, but universal enough, I guess, where it could then be lifted and given to another artist.
I think that's a great way to start. At least it works for us. It's fun to talk about someone and then get inspired. And especially if you reach higher, like, there's layers of artists, and there are certain artists that mean more to you than others. And to think of the artists that you really want to work with, I find that that's inspiring for me, but that's also inspiring for the top line or the singer that's in the room, because they can kind of channel a little bit of that energy, and it helps you get better. And it doesn't matter if it ends up with that artist or whatever that was. It was just a device to get you inspired and to create a song that may be a little bit different than you would have done if you're not thinking about anything.
When you finish a song, or a demo rather, do you know if it is a hit?
I've given up guessing. There were moments when, there have definitely been moments when I hear whatever comes out of the speaker, and I'm like, oh, I get that special feeling. This has all those, all those characteristics that a big song will have. Maybe it's radical in some way. It's a little bit simple. It has a lot of repetition. You're kind of scared of it because, is this too empty? Is this too simple? Like all those little things that you get a little bit scared of, and that's where you want to live.
Yeah.
Other times there may be a song that's like a little bit over the top, like, oh my God, this song is so over the top. Are we like, is this like crazy? Have we just gone too far? And then we think, you want to go too far. You want to make sure that you're too far. So there are times when I definitely think, okay, we did something special. But there are also, I have multiple examples of a song that we just did it. We just put it in the folder. We sent it out. Nobody was really talking about it at the time. It barely made the album. It's track 9 on the album, on the playlist. It's the third single, and then all of a sudden that blows up, and nobody expected it. So, if you use the scientific method, we've disproven that either us knowing about it or us not knowing about it, both things can lead to a big song. So I've just learned just to trust my instinct and the instinct in the room, and just go with that, and whatever happens will happen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the process in the marketing rather has shifted so dramatically, whereas historically, the label would quote unquote go to radio. There would be singles that you'd choose, and you'd hope to get the lead off single, or maybe the second or the third, and maybe you'd get as far as the fourth, and you'd hope to be one of those singles that would be pitched to radio, and then maybe it would turn into a hit. Now, like you said, it could be track 9 on the album. Nobody's expecting this to be a hit, but it just goes on TikTok, and sure enough, it's a hit, and it becomes a hit because the audience has spoken, and it really oftentimes had nothing to do with the label, and they didn't even know. Is that something to you? Like, have you noticed that has happened more frequently recently because of social media, or was it still kind of back in the day? You were equally surprised when maybe the label would choose, track 9 or your, fourth single or something like that to make into the hit.
At the end of the day, we're all working for the fans.
Right.
The listener and the audience will be the judge of the work that we put out. Either they're going to like it and get excited by it, or they won't, and it's on to the next one. That's always been my reality. When we first came to America, we did a song called So Sick with Neo, and we felt special about it when the song came out, but it wasn't until 9 months later you get the actual answer, right? Do people like this? And then they liked it, and so we stayed and we never looked back. But today it doesn't take 9 months for you to get the answer. You put it out and you kind of get the answer in 9 hours, or you get if you're a big artist, or you get the answer in like 9 days. Or you can get lucky and that nothing happens and for 3 years, and then someone has a cool TikTok and you have a sick viral moment, but that's completely out of your control. So I do think that you get the answer much quicker. I find that exciting. It's part exciting and part frustrating. Back in the day, you could have like a record company say, this is the priority. They still say that, by the way. Oh, this is our top priority.
Right.
They have a great plan. We're making a great strategy, and we have this incredible plan. And I'm like, that means nothing today. It means absolutely nothing. Of course, if you're a major artist, if you're BTS and your fans are crazy, then yes, it helps to have like a really put together plan, because it's such a like entertainment, mammoth project. But if you're a regular artist putting out a song, really the audience will let you know. It doesn't matter if you have a sick music video. If they don't like your song, they're going to keep skipping. If you're you have all the covers or all the followers in the world, means nothing if the song doesn't excite people. And you can be nobody and put something out and blow up overnight. So I think that's something. There's something amazing with that, and there's something frustrating because you can't press a button anymore. The audience will decide. So it's really just informed the way I look at things. Like, we can control the music. We can control the here and now. We can make sure this is exciting. We can make sure we have a great title. We can make sure we have some radical switch ups in the song, so that after the chorus there's like an exciting moment. Make sure that none of your lyrics are boring or generic. Make sure that your intro is captivating, so that you don't get skipped on. There's all these things that you can do as a creator that you should be doing anyway, right? You don't want to bore people. You want to make sure that you have your most exciting parts up front. Don't wait 2.5 minutes for it. And then once you send it out in the universe, it's up to the fans and the listeners. There's nothing you can do. And there's a beauty to that.
Has your production and writing process shifted because of TikTok or streaming? You said you want to have your most exciting parts up front. You want their intro to be captivating. Have you changed your production process or songwriting process because of the mediums?
I would say that the things we're doing now, we should be doing anyway, which is don't bore the listener. And make sure there's some exciting things happening in the intro. We did a song with Beyonce once called Irreplaceable, and it has this piece up front where she goes to the left, to the left.
To the left, to the left. To the left, to the left.
that thing wasn't there, right? It was just a piece of the verse, and we were like, oh, this intro feels kind of empty. Now let's put that up at the intro. So it grabs the listener right away. So that was before TikTok. I would do the same today. So
Right.
the things, but I guess it's supercharged now.
Yeah.
People don't have time to wait a minute and a half for the song to become good. So maybe we go to the chorus a little bit quicker. Maybe we make sure that the track is kind of open and simple. I've always preferred simple and open tracks in our music. If you listen to songs that we did, like a song we did with Julia Michaels called Issues.
'Cause I got issues, and you got them too. So give them all to me, and I'll give mine to you. Bask in the glory of all our problems. 'Cause we got the kind of love it takes to solve them. Yeah, I got issues.
Very few elements. So I've always preferred those kind of things, but those things definitely pop more on a phone or on a smaller speaker. Whereas if you're on an amazing system, you can maybe have these incredible soundscapes, that you can drown in. But
Sure.
the production needs to kind of cut through, and the title needs to be really clear, and the opening line of the verse needs to be really interesting. So I think of those things maybe even more now, but hopefully that's part of being a producer and a songwriter on a certain level.
I'm curious about, you mentioned Issues. That production is so dramatically different from so many of your other productions and just other songs at the time. And I think that's one of the reasons it stuck out so much. It does have such more minimalistic production and with the strings and the pluck, and when you went into that process, I guess, what was the process of creating that song? Because Julia Michaels, she started as a songwriter, behind the scenes songwriter, before she came out with original music as an artist. And she knows that process. She was the top liner for many years as part of that. And did the three of you kind of put that together? I believe Justin Tranter's maybe on that track as well, and Benny Blanco. And tell me about that process. You have so many like hit writers that have came together for this, but how did that one go?
First of all, Julia Michaels is an incredible songwriter,
Yeah,
and a singer. So whenever we were in the studio, the demo sounded incredible. So you already know it's going to sound great and exciting. But at the time, she wasn't an artist. She was a songwriter. I don't know if she thought of that song for herself, or if she just wrote a song that was exciting. But we were at Westlake Studios, and it was Benny, and it was Mikkel, and it was Selena, and it was Justin Tranter, as far as I can remember. And so the song was written on one, on like a string palette, a very simple string palette.
Yeah.
But then the next morning we came in and we stripped it all back, because we built it into this bigger song. And Benny was like, and Benny Blanco, incredible producer and really unfiltered, tastemaker. He was like, I don't like it anymore. I don't like it. So then we were like, okay, so what do we like about it?
Yeah.
We like the pizzicato. So I remember sitting there, like replaying the pizzicato, changing it up a little bit. And then once we went into the pre-chorus and started building, following the melody with the pizzicato, Benny's face lit up. And I could just tell he didn't have to say anything. I just knew that we were on the right track. And once we had just an 808 and a snap in that pizzicato and Julia's incredible voice, it kind of felt finished. So we tried a couple of more times to build it up. It was like, is it too empty? Maybe we should add on to it. And then every time we started building it up, it just lost some of its essence.
Yeah.
So we asked ourselves, just, what do we like about this? We like these three ingredients. Let's just keep these three ingredients. And that's how we did it. And so that was the song for a while. Julia got a record deal. And at the time, there's a tendency sometimes for labels to give songwriters artist deals just so they can get their songs. But it doesn't mean that they're going to put it out. So we pushed the label a little bit, like, okay, if you're going to put this out on Julia, what's your plan? And they actually sent a full plan of like, this is what we're going to do. So they, we could see that they were serious. And then it was like, okay, let's go. And then of course, song blew up. And I think it was, Julia's first big song as an artist, and it's a beautiful thing. And I know we wrote a lot of great songs together.
Yeah. No, it's so fascinating. How often does that happen where you kind of evolve the production, or you completely change the production when you're kind of in those final stages, not the demo stage necessarily, but like after the artist puts their vocals on it, and it's like maybe it's not feeling right, or there's something. Do you ever like strip it back down, build it back up? Is that fairly typical?
We love doing that. We take the finished song, instead of having a bunch of discussions in the studio, we're like, hey, you should repeat this line, or I don't know about this line. We'll make sure we get a whole song in that we're all excited by.
Yeah.
And once the artist is gone, we sit and we play with that a cappella, and we change the music completely. We'll change the drums. We'll double the tempo. We'll go from major to minor. We'll do all these things just to make sure that we made the most of the song and make sure that this is its ultimate shape. Another example, we did a song with Charlie XCX called Same Old Love.
I'm so sick of that same old love. That shit, it tears me up. I'm so sick of that same old love. My body's had enough. Oh, that same old love. Oh, that same old love.
And that song was completely different, and one quiet night in the studio, me and Mikkel, we were just sitting there coming up with brand new chords. We just kept the snap and then did a whole new version of it, sent it to Charlie, and I was like, Charlie, what do you think about this? She said, oh, that's cool, but it's not for me, it's not for my artist project, but it's cool. Ended up becoming a Selena Gomez song. That Rihanna also, weirdly enough, cut. I think there's a leak on the internet of that. And that was, changed shape completely. So it's like remixing our own songs. We love remixing our own songs just to see if there's something more there. Sometimes the artist will be like, what happened to the original drums? Let's say we'd make a beat in 10 minutes. We did that with a song called Take a Bow for Rihanna.
Don't tell me you're sorry 'cause you're not. Baby, when I know you're only sorry you got caught.
We just made some temp drums. This is just a quick direction, but not serious drums. And then she loved those drums, and we could never get her to agree to any other drums.
A simple logic loop or something. Not
that quite that. We did it, but still, it was just like, oh no, I mean that's just the temp track, and the temp track became the actual song. So there's pros and cons, but I love sitting with an a cappella and then changing things around, because I also find it easier to have a creative discussion if you let the music do the talking. You just, instead of trying to have a discussion with the artist, you're like, hey, listen to this version. I did a version which is simpler, and I cut out the third line and I made this to the punchline. Little things like that. And that's how you can chip away at something and make it even sharper and simpler and better.
Yeah. How often do you get songs that are already written and they come to you as kind of the producers, or to sweeten it up, to just kind of put your magic on it, where you weren't the originators of that idea, but it got sent to you? And do you do that? Is that typical as part of your process as well? Or are you more like always starting from the initial idea?
I don't think we don't do a lot of like finishing songs that are already existing. I wouldn't mind doing it, but it's a lot of other people can do that and do that so much better. Right. We do a lot of collaborations with other producers, and when we do that, we're like, hey, what do you have in the folder? Hey, this is something we have in the folder, and we'll build a track together. And we may start with, we just did something for Coco Jones with Jasper Harris. Jasper had the loop, and then we're like, oh, that's a sick intro. What if we do these chords in the chorus, and then we'll add things together. So I guess that's kind of pre-made. Every once in a while, someone will send us a song to finish, but I think that's not where we shine the most. I think we're better at like creating the song from scratch.
Yeah. And all the songs that you write, do you end up being the producers on that as well? Or do you ever kind of send it somewhere else if maybe you think another production team could take it in a different direction that they specialize in?
Yeah, I mean, prime example, we just did a couple of songs on FKA Twigs, who's, like slightly more alternative than what we normally do. And so at that point, we wrote the songs with Twigs in the studio. We did a rough production, and then she took it back to the UK and worked with her team for 9 months, experimenting and just trying out different things.
Cool.
Of course, with our involvement, every once in a while we get on the Zoom, we listen to what's going on, and so yes, we do do some of that. We rarely just write a song and then send it to someone else, because production and songwriting goes hand in hand in today. So much of it is down to sound design and what instrument you're playing it on, and you would play maybe a chord progression completely different if it's played with a certain synth sound rather than a piano or an acoustic guitar. So I find that for us, the process of writing songs and producing goes hand in hand. But I love it if an artist is in there and they have the vision to be like, I really love this song, but I want my guy to put drums on it, or I want to take it back and fiddle with it a little bit. We're not precious at all, and we exchange stems, twice a week.
Yeah. How involved, and well, you said you're not that precious with it, but I'm curious, when you finish a demo with your team, whatever that internal team is going to be, maybe even with the artist, and then, like you said, FKA Twigs took it back with her team for 9 months. Do you want to be involved in the process of the development and through the end? Do you care what the end product sounds like? I mean, do you kind of do your job as like, all right, as long as we're credited as songwriters, you do your thing, or do you make sure that you can kind of sign off on the finished product, even if it's an artist that feels very strongly about it, and you're the producers and the songwriters, or maybe just the songwriters? Like, how, I guess, yeah, what do you have a point where you kind of tap out and be like, well, it's the artist's song now, and I'm, my name will be on the songwriter, or do you make sure you see it all the way through and that you can stand behind it?
Of course, I really care about the song all the way to the end. That's the one thing that we can control, is how it sounds. But that doesn't mean that it has to be my way always. It could be someone else. And I find that most people perform the best when they have full creative freedom. So you can really get your thoughts out. You don't have to compromise. And I don't want you to compromise. I want, do you, and then we'll see at the end. So, I mean, I have many different examples of how we make something. Like, let's say we made an album with Coldplay, and one of the songs was called Adventure of a Lifetime.
Come alive again.
And that went back and forth between our side and kind of the Coldplay live side, which was Rick Simpson producing. So when we were communicating and finishing that song, Chris kept changing the punchlines of the verses going into the hook. And I said, Chris, you can do whatever you want right here. I just want it to be the same. And so after a little bit of back and forth, Chris would be like, okay, let's do that. But then I wanted to put the title Adventure of a Lifetime in the song somewhere. So I was like, I tried a couple of times to be like, Chris, what if this would be the perfect place to say Adventure of a Lifetime? What if you did that? And Chris was like, I hear you, and you've asked me twice now, but it's still a no. Of course, I'm going to be like, fine, it's your song. So, and of course it worked fine, and it works great, but there's a give and take and a push and pull, and I will listen to whoever feels the most strongly. I think is how we try to do it, instead of making a compromise. You don't make great art by a compromise. You don't want it to be like, oh, you like it a little bit and I like it a little bit, but none of us love it. That's not a great place to be. You want to be where I fucking love this. This is like my favorite song on the album, and those drums in this moment and that, whatever that is my favorite shit. Then that person will accept that, hopefully, instead of us trying to meet in the middle. That's not a good place to be.
Totally. I looked on Spotify, and it has your name as the songs written by Tor Hermansen, and it says you've written about 400 songs. I know it's more than that because it hasn't properly tagged you to many of the songs that I was doing the deep dive, like on the FKA Twigs latest record. You're not properly tagged there, and it's just like, I know it's many more. How many songs would you say, if you've kept track of this, have actually been released that you've written?
I should know this, but if you say it's 400, then let's say I have no idea, but let's say it's 500. Then if you could I'm sure there's some that fell in the tracks, but yeah, there should be hundreds of songs out there.
And how many would you say you've written that didn't get released?
That's a scary number. I would say, when it was just me and Mikael and Hallgeir back in Norway, we did probably 500 songs. That's before we even set foot in America. And then when we came to America in 2005 and started writing, I would say we've easily done another 1,000 or more. So probably in excess of 2,000 songs altogether.
Wow. So, I mean, that's almost a ratio of like, I don't know, 25% of the songs that you wrote actually get released. Is that, I mean, how do you feel about that? That 75% of your work essentially goes in the trash?
It probably deserves to stay in the trash because, some of these songs are just studies for other great songs. You can't come up with...
Okay.
I wish I could only write great songs. You kind of try every day, but you can't be too precious about it either. So, like, we've done a lot of great sessions in like the last week of June, right before we go on like our summer break, because we're Norwegian, so we take a long summer holiday, and we've been doing that for many years. So my wife will be like, "Why can't you just do the good sessions? Why do you need to do like all the other sessions? Why don't you take the year off and then you just do sessions in June?"
Yeah.
And I wish that was the world we live in, where you can only do great songs. But I try to build so that if you do a song and the song isn't great, but the drums are awesome, I try to bring those songs into the next song. If I did some chords and then the production didn't quite come out right, I try to think of, I could use those chords again because there's something here. So we try to use some of these elements when we have the great, let's say you have an amazing song, but the drums aren't right. And I'll be like, you remember that song from 2 months ago? Like, those drums were incredible. Let's try to pull those in, see what happens. And Mikael will just quickly pull those in. So they're not going to waste. Yeah. And I think 25% is not bad. I mean, I know a lot of other people will be like, hey, maybe 10% comes out. And of those 10%, only another 10% make it. So I don't think that's a bad ratio, because they're all studies to, and you also have to, when you're developing your sound over time, it takes time to find a new palette. That stuff takes a minute. You can't just do it from Monday to Tuesday, or at least we haven't been able to.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I want to ask you about the business a little bit, the business of songwriting and production. Tell me about the kind of representation that you have now versus maybe what you had when you started, and just in general, I guess also, when you're guiding kind of the next generation of songwriters and producers, what do you see as an important team, as kind of important collaborators, and then just kind of how to build your business up like that?
So I'm holding on to this notion that, it all begins and ends with the music. There's no manager that can fix things for you if the music isn't right. There's all the publishing deals and stuff in the world is not worth anything if your music isn't connecting, or if you're not excited, and that thing is the most important thing. So I always hold on to this thing that, if it's not working, if for whatever reason you're not where you want to be musically or business wise, let's go back to the lab. Let's make more songs. Okay, we did those songs. They didn't make the record. Let's go back and make some better songs. And I really hold on to that every day. Yeah. Because it's so easy. When you start out, you're always so naive in a way, but that naivete is it's a superpower, because you're like, anything is possible. I'm nowhere. I'm going to say yes to everything. I'm just going to not be too smart and clever about it. I'm just going to keep doing my thing. Yeah. And then as you become, I guess, more successful and more seasoned, it's so easy to become industry. So you lose that voice inside you that says, this is amazing. This is garbage. How can we make this great? And you're just starting to worry about like streams and numbers and stuff. And especially today, I think there's a tendency to, you're measured every day, because you could look at your views every day, and you could look at your streams every single day. So that could become paralyzing, I think, when it comes to being creative and taking risks and keep pushing. Right. So that's really my main message, both for myself and for other people starting out, that just stay focused on that. Of course, when you're an artist, you have to engage. You have to think about your visuals. You have to think about your performance. You have to think about your messaging. You have to think about the social media and your persona when it comes to that. But the reason people go on Spotify is really that they want to listen to your music, right? It doesn't matter who your manager is and who your label is and all that other stuff. Is your music exciting, and are people interested in you as an artist?
Yeah. There's a movement in the, I guess, the hit songwriter community, if we call it that. Ross Golan and Emily Warren and even Justin Tranter have been talking a lot about this. And I heard Ross give his keynote at the Sona Warrior Awards this past year, where he really hit this, where artists kind of taking credit, or I guess making themselves a co-writer on a song that they actually didn't have a hand in writing. What is your take on that?
That's a great question. I've had numerous, because Emily Warren is a mentor here at LAMP. So we've had that discussion on stage quite a few times, because I really respect where Emily is coming from. And I kind of agree in principle, and in ideal world, I agree that whoever wrote the song should get the credit and should have the, earn the money from it.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the other side of, there's two other things. If a major artist comes to you and this is part of their business model, and you can say that you don't like it or you like it, it's a life-changing moment for aspiring songwriter to have a song recorded by a big artist. So from a purely business perspective, it may be worth it. It's like getting an investor into your company. It's like, I made this whole company, and you get 20% now, and all you did was walk it into the office of some major investor. But it still increases the value of your company, right? So if you think of your song as like an asset, which it also is, it's art, but it's also an asset, and I want that asset to be worth as much as possible. So if I'm giving 20% to a major artist, it's going to increase the value. That's one side of it. The other side of it is a little bit more complex, where some artists that don't necessarily write that much get publishing deals. Mm-hmm. So now their artist manager is to blame, because they're like, hey, we could go and get a $1 million check from so-and-so, but then you need to write 10% on your next album, or you need to write 20% on your next album. So now the artist is in the room, some artists are incredible songwriters, I mentioned some of them, and other artists don't necessarily write, but they feel a pressure to write now. So now they're trying to get their ideas onto the song so that it justifies their publishing deal and that they get the writing. At that point, I'm wondering, just to keep the creative process pure, it's better that the artists that don't necessarily write get 10% or 20% just to stay out of the way. And I know that's a little bit more of a controversial thing, but as a creator in the room, and especially as a producer who's supposed to oversee this whole thing, it can be frustrating if you're just holding up the process. Because you feel a pressure or to write when you're sitting next to the most incredible Julia Michaels or some other writer. You want to make sure that the best person, whoever is the best, is the one that's handling the ball. Is really what I'm trying to say. So there's nuance to it. But I do respect and agree that, hey, I'm not going to take any songwriting, publishing. Rihanna never came for a single point of publishing, and to her credit, you have someone like Esther Dean who wrote a lot of big songs for her. We'll bring that up in every interview, saying that Rihanna never came for publishing unless she did actually contribute. And Rihanna did well for herself. So
she's a billionaire.
She's
one
a
of the very
billionaire
few.
from other things, and she saw that the songs are just part of what I have to do. I need a whole creative team. If you're a singer-songwriter, writing your songs is your craft. If you're a rapper, it kind of needs to come from you. But if you're a major artist, I'd rather the artist be on tour or be out and do amazing, incredible promo for the song, and we'll handle the writing, and it's a team effort, and let the best people do what they're best at. That will just increase the value for everybody.
That's a great point. But the counter argument, even though you did present a few different sides of the position, but it's kind of, artists have all these other revenue streams they're able to tap into. They can tour, they can sell merch, they have fans that know their name that will support them one way or another, whereas songwriters don't. They're kind of the they're the hidden heroes behind the scenes that are creating the songs, and not to mention that they can't tour on their name necessarily and make money that way that artists can. they make such a smaller percentage from streaming royalties than artists and labels do. It's like 20% or something of like the streaming revenue songwriters make and publishers make versus what the labels and artists make. Now, granted, yes, if you get the hit on the radio, the songwriters can make some money in performance royalties, but when it really comes down to it, that's only if you're getting the hit. And if you're track 9 on the album, it's really not going to amount to anything if it doesn't hit radio. So I think, that's where a lot of these songwriters are coming from, is because like artists have all these revenue streams. They have so many ways of making money, not to mention they're building their own brand. And then they want another piece of the last remaining bit of revenue that songwriters could possibly have. It just feels, as to use kind of Ross's terms, like thievery.
I totally understand where you're coming from, and I partly agree with that. I just said I wouldn't judge anyone if they made a pragmatic decision of like, you know what, this sucks, but it's also going to open other doors for me.
Sure.
So, and we've done that numerous times. When we first came to America, like people wanted to pay us $0 for a song, right, and the production, because they were like, oh, it's a good look for you guys. So all I'm saying is that there has to be some form of, like you have to look at each situation. Now, I also think your argument there is good when it comes to streaming and YouTube and all these other promotional activities, when people, especially YouTube, were saying that, oh, we're not going to pay a lot, but it's great exposure. When you're a songwriter, the songs are all you have.
Yeah.
So this is my income. So there's no promo. There's no promo for a tour. And if I write a song called Diamonds, and you go on the road with the Diamonds tour, or if I write a song called The Firework, and Katy Perry now has the Firework Foundation and does all these firework things, and I don't get anything from that. The songwriting is what we have.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I do understand that it's important to protect it, and I think a lot of artists will make sure that the creative community, they know that they also need the creative community. So they will respect that, and I will support any action when it comes to that. But I will not say that. I will understand if a young songwriter will also like make some compromises on there just to get their name out there and get going.
Totally. No, I get it for sure. When it comes to sessions, I guess songwriting sessions, maybe for artists, when maybe the artist throws a writing camp or something like that. I'm curious, are songwriters paid for writing camps, for sessions, or are all songwriters for the most part working on spec, hoping to make royalties down the road? How does that work?
We're all working on spec.
Okay.
I've worked on spec for 20 years, plus years. You don't get anything up front. The money only comes if your songs are used, and real money only comes if the songs are successful. So really, your hope is that you get some form of publishing advance, or you get a song out there that will generate enough income so you don't have to have a job. That's really the only goal is for you to be able to make music full time. For producers, there's obviously the production income, but that fee is also on spec. We don't get paid anything if the song doesn't get picked up. It usually takes 6 to 9 months for that song to be confirmed. They said they were going to take 6 songs, now they're taking 3 songs, and then we have to pay the studio and all the cost that comes into play. So we're really all out here just trying to make it, right? We're all out here trying to get something going. And spec is the only way I know how to work. You could get some song deals if you have some form of traction on other songs. You have a relationship. You're going to do. You could get some advances. You can get a publishing deal going. But yes, the real income is far in the future if you're a songwriter and if you're a producer.
Yeah, when you're advising your kind of your students and the young songwriters and producers out there, I know you said that it all comes down to the song, and none of the business really matters if you don't have the song, and I get that. It makes a lot of sense. Let's say they do have the song. So let's say you think they have the songs. Let's say that you think that you have some geniuses on your hands. They've written some brilliant hit songs, but they don't have representation, or they don't really know the next steps. What are these songwriters to do with these incredible songs if they don't really have connections, or don't know really what to do after they have this batch of brilliant songs that are potential hits that you think are hits?
I think the most important thing to do is then to share it with the world. Because at the end of the day, if you get either a publishing deal or a record deal, they're going to expect you to put it out in the world and make something happen for yourself anyway. A record company will not, first of all, sign a brand new artist with no traction. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works. I've been told to my face, like, this girl is incredible. If it was 10 years ago, we would sign her on the spot. But right now, she needs to put some stuff out and get some traction and see some numbers before we do anything. And that's a tough reality to be in, but it's also an opportunity to be like, you know what? I don't need any of these people. I'm just going to build a following and I'm going to put my stuff up. That's where an interesting side of the equation, I guess the business equation, comes in. If you own your masters, game changer. And you don't even need to have 1 billion streams. If you own your master, a few million, it goes a long way. And if you can get up to 80 million or 100 million streams and you own the master, you're actually, something is really happening. And all it takes is like for one decent viral moment for your song to really get to those numbers. And it can happen immediately. So that's the exciting part. So my advice to new artists and songwriters would be like, make sure you put stuff out. Because when you go on your artist page, you go on your socials, I want to see an artist that's active. Don't sit around and wait for a record company to come and solve your problems or a manager to solve your problems. Make sure you're putting stuff out. You look at some of the biggest names, they've been putting out music for 10 years. Artists that you think of as kind of new, and then you go on their Spotify page and you say, oh my God, they've been releasing music since 2018 or 2015. So that would be my advice. Make sure that it's not empty in your artist. You can't just wait for the perfect shot. You got to just start taking some shots. And I'm not concerned. If you're a creative person, those songs are fresh now. They're not going to feel so fresh and exciting in 3 years. Make sure you get it out now because you can write more. Those songs will only lead you on. I've seen people have this, I don't know what it is, a resistance to putting stuff up because you want everything to be perfect. And then maybe your moment will pass, or you don't like the songs anymore. And it's harder and harder to put the stuff up because you don't think it's good enough.
Yeah.
Begin anywhere, put stuff out, and then write more stuff. And it moves quicker than it's ever done before. You can't, not put out content for 3 years and then expect people to be excited for an album. You got to put out stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So that's, and then once you really get traction and you get some form of numbers or you get a fan base, you may find that one, like a lot of rappers do, hey, I don't need a record label. Why would I want to do that? Now I'm making money on the masters and I'm just putting stuff out. I have the freedom to put stuff out.
Sure.
Or you'll have a record company come to you and now you'll actually get their attention. Because I do think the place for a record company is to really supercharge something that's already happening.
Yes.
That's amazing. You need a machine. If you're going to be, like a worldwide artist, there's a place for that. But as far as artist development and finding your footing and putting your stuff out and doing those first few steps of creative choices, that needs to come from you, whether you're signed or not. So you might as well do it without being signed. Pretend like you're signed if that helps you and be like, what would I do today if I had a big deal? So, and a lot of that stuff doesn't cost any money either. Making the music doesn't cost that much anymore. You could do it kind of in your bedroom or with the co-producer. Making videos, nobody really makes videos. They always want you to make short form content anyway. So you might as well do it on your phone. So there's a lot of cool things you can do just by yourself.
What about for the songwriters who don't really want to be artists, don't want to put music out, don't see themselves as that artist? Is there a place for songwriters who are not artists anymore, like there used to be, or are you seeing that part of the industry is kind of dried up?
There's always room for songwriters because artists need amazing ideas, and it's a team effort. Some great songwriters, just for whatever reason, they don't like being an artist, or maybe they try being an artist, they found out that it wasn't that easy. And some people are the happiest when they're in the studio working, and they don't want to be on the red carpet, they don't want to shoot social media selfie stuff, and there's a different side.
Yeah.
And of course, I've been fortunate. I've been around some of the greatest songwriters of our time, and there's definitely a time for and a place for people that just want to create music. So if you're talking about top line especially, I would say that connecting with certain artists of your generation. Don't go after the big names. Don't waste your time with that. Just go after people that you're inspired by, that you think, oh, I really would love to work with you. Because these artists will be receptive to that. Like, hey, let's do 2 days. and see what we can do. I have some ideas. Can I send you some? Or I've been thinking about, I've been following you for a long time and I know this and this and this. So it's easier for you to get something going. And the most successful songwriters have real relationships with the artists.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever, they could be friends or they could be just a solid writing partner. So when this artist goes from producer or studio to studio, they have some comfort in knowing that, oh, I have my girl with me, like she's my best friend and she knows what's going on in my life and she knows everything. And, there's a comfort in having that friend / tastemaker with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that there's a role for people that come up with everything and like they write the whole song, but there's also a role for the wingman, or the sidekick that's like, oh
Sure.
yeah, that's great, or no, this sucks, like we should do this, and just like a hype person, that you can have fun with in the studio, and you can be that person too. And then let's say you end up with 10% publishing on this major project, but you did add value because you drove it forward. You encouraged. This is what I've seen with Justin Tranter. Justin's an incredible songwriter, but one of Justin's main talents, it's like, let's write the second verse. This is really good. The punchline isn't quite there yet. Let's figure that out. Like, let's maybe change the melody here on the second. Let's not be lazy with it. Let's finish it. Those things are so valuable. And because without Justin in the room, the song wouldn't be done,
it's great.
So there's many ways to be a songwriter today.
Cool.
But there's absolutely a place for that. Or the songwriter that's just an incredible vocalist and lyricist, want to do everything themselves. Like we worked with Sia when Sia wasn't really doing a lot of artist stuff. Mm-hmm. Of course, she wrote the whole thing. If you were in the room with her, you would just hold her up. Like she doesn't need anyone else in the room. She would write a song in 11 minutes and then leave, and it would be a fully formed song. And she was like, "But I don't want to release it. I'm not an artist." So there's a time and place for that too.
Right. No, that's great advice. That's really great, really cool. So let's talk about LAMP. Let's talk about your school, Los Angeles Academy for Artists and Music Producers. When did you launch it, and why did you launch the school, create the school?
I just thought, wouldn't it be great if there was a place for artists and producers and songwriters to find a way to connect and develop their craft in a safe environment? And this was right after COVID, and I was like, people are sick of being at home now. I think people want to connect face to face and be out in the world. So that's when we built this place here in Santa Monica, and it's a 1 year or 9 month program. So it kind of goes deep, but it's very specialized. It's not a music conservatory. It's not an engineering school. It's really a creative hub where we focus on artist development. Like, who are you? Find your true voice. What are you great at? We're not doing exercises to like write a country song or write an EDM song. It's more like, who are you and how can we get to the bottom of that? We focus on rookie mistakes. We have trying to get your game up really quickly. And so far what we've seen is like, if you work really hard, 10, 12 hours a day for 9 months, the stuff you do at the end of the year is on a completely different level than what you did when you came in. So that's what we did, and there's about 45 to 50 students here on site, and there's an online portion of it, which is much shorter and easier to follow. But if you really want to go in depth and really focus on your craft for 1 year, this is why we created LAMP.
That's cool. And what is the focus? So it's just a year program. So obviously it's not degree focused like so many other universities are, some intensive programs like that. What's the focus, and what are you hoping for them to accomplish by the end, or what are the students hoping to get out of it when they leave 9 months later?
The focus is everything that you need to know to be an artist in the music industry. So we do workshops with professional, managers and publishers and A&R people, and the professional side of things. But the main focus we have is on creating the music and developing as an artist. What do you need to know when you go out in the world? How can you make your songs better? How can you make your stagecraft better? How can you make your social media better? We have to cover that. We really cover all phases, but we're very specialized in this is what we do, and we compress it into 9 months. So where it differs from an NYU or from the universities, getting into a college and university, that's hard, and it's expensive, and it takes a long time. So there's a lot of amazing creative people out there that they don't really fit in the school environment. they don't really want to go to school, and so this doesn't feel like a school. It feels more like really like a 9-month boot camp for artists and producers and songwriters. And since we're in the studio every day, and we have a lot of we have 16 studios here, you can make an EP or an album easily while you're here, because you're then surrounded by everything that you need, all the tools you need. You get mentoring every week. We listen to the songs, we compress it, we look at how you can make it better. You get, feedback. That's one of the hardest things in music, is no one really takes the time to develop you or give you any feedback. They'll be like, yeah, I like it, or you won't hear anything. That's my world too. I send a song out and so excited, and then if they like it, they like it, and if they don't like it, they're not going to tell you how to fix it. That's where we come in, and we're actually guiding people. Like, you're incredible, when you do this. We see a lot of producers want to become artists. We see a lot of artists that maybe change their direction or find themselves throughout the year and understand more who they are and what they can bring to the world. And that's just amazing to see. So from my, that's really why I love being here, because I just love seeing that transformation of people discovering who they are really as a creator.
Yeah, that's cool. So you've had, I guess, what has it been, 3 years now or so?
We're in our 4th year now, and it's incredible. The showcases, we do 3 showcases a year. We do open mic nights. We're all those things. So we're not a star factory where we're just looking for the America's Next Talent. We have we have indie artists, we have DIY artists, we have rappers, we have the singer-songwriters. We go across the board. But there are universal truths, like, who are you and what's your true voice, and how can we bring that out is really the key message. Because I've learned that from my years, I guess, in the music industry, that the ones that are successful are the ones that are sure in what they want to bring to the table, and they're not scattered all over the place trying to do too many things. They're like, this is who I am right now. This is what I want to sound like. This is what I want to put out. And then it's very clear. That doesn't mean that you can't move on 3 years later, but it means right now it has to be clear. So we really help the artists sharpen their ideas and their whole persona, so they're more ready when they leave.
That's great. Who are some of the, or where do the instructors come from? Who are the mentors or instructors, or how is it structured in terms of the support that the students get there?
Right. So we have no teachers. We have mentors, and we call them mentors. So every week almost, there's a world-class mentor. Which, Benny Blanco has been here, Diplo has been here, John Cunningham has been here, Emily Warren, as I mentioned, has been here. Mm-hmm. So we focus on songwriters. We focus on artist developing, and we're focused on producers. So all those 3 will be covered by our mentors. I'm a mentor. I'm an in-house mentor, I guess. I do a lot of the playbacks on Monday. So these are people that I just think have something valuable to give to the next generation. I find a lot of people are really inspired by hearing from top people, that made the music that they grew up listening to. And then we do workshops in between, which is a little bit more specialized. Like, how can I get my 808s to hit harder? And how can I, as a songwriter, how can I expand my vocabulary? Or, how can I look at stagecraft, how to hold the mic, how to look relaxed on stage, how to work with, all that. We analyze social media. Who am I? Am I sending mixed signals? How can I, what stuff is growing? We really look at that part of it too. So, and then we do some just fun stuff. We have fitness on several times a week, and we do yoga and we do meditation. We talk about mental health, how to communicate and collaborate really with each other is something that a lot of people are new to. Being in the room every day with different people, which is my life. I'm in with how do I communicate across age barriers, race barriers, social background, all that stuff to find something to write about. It's one of the most beautiful things about music. I guess music and sports are the 2 arenas that can really connect people, where it's a strength to be from different places, right?
Yeah.
So we encourage that here and make sure that you can make the most out of every situation you're put in. And I think that's the kind of knowledge that you can use in music, of course, but you can just use it in life. People that may be completely different can create something special together.
Nice. That's great. So is this, is it an application-based program, or how does one find out about this or become part of it?
You go on LAMP and our website or our socials, which is all LAAMP, and then you apply. You don't need a degree to be at LAMP. All you need is talent, and you need a willingness to learn and to work really hard, because we do go a little bit harder than your normal college or high school. So it's definitely more like the hours that we work when we're in the studio. But
Sure.
of course, it doesn't feel like work because we're just making music. We're on the Christmas break now, and there's students coming in to finish their projects and working all week. So just fun.
Passion should drive it, always.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Tor, this has been so great and so illuminating. Thank you for the time and for sharing so much of your wisdom and your process. I know everyone really appreciated it. I have one final question that I ask everyone who comes on the show, and that is, what does it mean to you to make it in the new music business?
To make it, if you're making music and you don't have to have a regular job, you made it. Whatever comes after that is just a bonus. In the new music business, the old music business, in every music business. That's it.
Great. Tor, thank you so much. That was great.
Thanks for having me.
Today's episode was edited by Ari Davids with music by Grassroots District and produced by all the great people at Ari's Take.